Mike, everybody wants to hear what you've got to say today. Fantastic.
Well, I hope I have something interesting for them to hear.
Well, you always do. You always do. Okay, let's go one more place. All right. Okay, everyone, fantastic. And we are live with Mike Ferry, our special guest on Mastermind with Neil Schwartz. Mike, welcome and looking forward to it. Unmute yourselves. Let's give this guy a big hand. Woo! All right. Good job.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
Hi, Mike.
Mike Ferry.
But Neil, I always say, don't applaud, throw money. What the heck?
Well, we're going to do that. We actually have a QR code for throwing money today. You're going to love this. Okay. Anyway, we're having fun. So, Mike, thanks for taking the time today. I really do appreciate it. And what I wanted to try and do is do something a little bit different than kind of what your public sees of you and the situation. I mean, here you are, you're a rich guy, you got a couple of expensive Rolls-Royce cars, you fly private. I mean, you must have been born with money and live with money, etc. But that's not totally accurate, is it, Mike?
Well, it could be a little bit farther from the truth, but you and I came out of the same type of a background. As for those that know Neil's background, you know, we came out of the lower end of the pay scale, and we just had to work our way out of that particular place. I came from a little city in Orange County. In fact, it wasn't even a city. It was just called Orange County. It became the city of Garden Grove, and you know, went to 12 years of Catholic school, and we were on some type of a scholarship. So we got to basically go, and my parents didn't have to pay a lot of money. So I would say to all of you that Neil and I have been very close for 47 years because we came out of the same environment, and we both ended up a lot better off than where we started.
Absolutely. And we're hard charging and we're keeping at it, right?
Well, I think between us, let's see, I'm 77. Are you 70 now? Is that correct?
71.
71. So we have about 150 years of experience telling them what not to do and what to do right. So that's the important.
Well, and that's a lot of the reason I wanted to get together with this today. We've talked before, we've interviewed. You and I talk all the time. You're still coaching me on a weekly basis, every Monday at 11:30. And so if anybody can't get in touch with me, that's where I'm at. And the market isn't changing. I think you'll agree the market has changed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it has changed, and there's a whole group of similar circumstances that are going to continue to cause it to change more. But the good news is, Neil, we're going to get back to what you and I would know as a normal real estate market. We've been in a very normal market for a long time. I like the quote from Elon Musk about a month ago where he said, people could sit and people would throw money at them and they didn't know what they were doing to receive it. So everybody made a lot of money, and that world has come to a screeching halt, and we're going to have to learn to go back to work again. And it's going to be a tough transition for a lot of people.
So the last time we were in a quote unquote normal market was before 2005. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
we had that nice stretch from about late 1999 to about 2005, where, you know, if you worked, you got paid. If you didn't work, you didn't get paid. So
most of the agents here never experienced 2005 to 2012. They've joined real estate since 2012. They've been in the business a lot of years, 8 or 10 years, and yet they don't know what a real normal market looks like, do they?
No. And you know, people ask me all the time, Neil, what is a normal market? I said, well, you have to work to get a listing. You have to have good skills to make a sale. You're going to deal with objections that probably many people have not even heard, because buyers in those days would give legitimate objections like interest rate is too high. Can you get me a better deal on the mortgage? Will the seller come down in price 10, 15, 20%? you know, that's called the real world. What we live in today has been a fantasy land, and that's coming to a halt.
So, so things like we used to put deals together using a 3-2-1 or creative financing. I mean, they don't even know what I'm talking about. We took a survey right now and I said, okay, what's a 3-2-1? Put it in the chat box. I don't think we'd have very many people that knew what I was talking about, would I?
Well, we were talking earlier today, a couple of us, and they said, you know, what about the ARM loans? I said, well, the ARM loans are coming back. One of the people said, what is an ARM? He said, I have two of them. I said, no, it's a little different scenario in real estate. But, you know, it's the advancement of skills that makes a person live through a normal market. It's the transition from where we have been, which is one of the high points probably in the history of real estate over the last 3 to 5 years. And COVID actually accelerated in a positive manner the real estate market. It de-accelerated the skills required to succeed, but accelerated the values and so forth. So, you know, it's going to be a learning curve for a lot of people. I have to tell you, Neil, I respect all the people that started after 2012 and 13, that they're still in the business. That's number one. But number two, it's going to be a transition for the next 12, 18 months, helping them understand that the freedom of being in real estate is going to be somewhat limited by the lack of skills. And it's going to be much more skill driven than it has been in the past.
Absolutely. Mike, let's go back just a little bit and understand where you got all this information and picked it up along the way. I'm not sure many people know. Your mentors were Mike Vance, Gunther Klaus, and Earl Nightingale, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, but here's the question. Now, when I met you, I bought you hook, line, and sinker. I can't tell you why. I don't know. My question to you is, did you buy Mike Vance, Gunther Klaus, and Earl Nightingale hook, line, and sinker? And if so, how did you do it? Because the Mike Ferry I know, and most of us know, you know, don't listen to very many people.
Well, I had an advantage. You know, blind faith has been a big part of my life, all my life. And part of that is, of course, spending 12 years in Catholic school. And if you can buy that story, you can buy almost any story. So I always smile when I say that, because I would tell that to the local priest, and he didn't know if he wanted to hit me or laugh when I said it. But I'm a great believer in blind faith. And of course, when Earl Nightingale said to me, you know, you become what you think about most of the time. And I processed that thought and I said, well, I have a choice. I can either feed good information into my head that I can use to enhance the quality of my life and business, or I can reject it all. And then, of course, Earl Nightingale introduced me to Mike Vance, who is the Dean of Creative Thinking, and of course, expanding your mind and getting out of the box, etc. And Mike Vance said, you have a choice, and the choice is accept what I say and do it, or live your life the way you choose. And I accepted what he said. And then he introduced me to Gunther Klaus. And Gunther Klaus, of course, a very, very strong personality, that his beliefs were not ironclad. They made ironclad look like probably soup. Okay, he was so strong in his beliefs. So I grew up with the belief that what these people were telling me was correct. Now, in terms of the sales side of the business, you know, like almost everybody you and I know, when I first started back in the early 1970s, you know, the broker said you have two choices: pick up the phone and spend all day dialing the phone, which were rotary phones. And some of your agents have never seen a rotary phone. And, you know, it was quite antiquated, or go knock on doors all day long. And I said, well, what do you say when you knock on doors? He said, well, ask them if they want to sell their house. So I started developing the scripts and dialogues and the skills just so I can enhance the experience that I was having. And I proved that they would work to me, which means my belief then in sharing them with you. So I think we actually met, Neil, in Ontario, California, at a title company, had a meeting, and it was a small group. And I think you were an agent at the time, and I was a brand new speaker. And my belief was as strong then in what I'm teaching as it is today, because you and I have seen it work. We know it works, and anybody that question it, that's their problem.
No, I understand that. I absolutely. But let me ask this question. So you worked for a title company early on, right?
Yes, correct.
And then you worked for Disneyland. Well, that wasn't going to work because you were shooting animals in the Amazon cruise, right? But between the Disney job and going to work in the title company, is that when you met Earl Nightingale?
Actually, what happened, I took a short-term job, and you remember Bill Mitchell?
Sure.
We lost Bill a couple of years ago to cancer, but Bill had opened up a little escrow company in Newport Beach. And because of my title insurance experience, he hired me to be a salesperson. I don't think I've ever shared this with you. And, everybody went to lunch that day and I didn't have any money. So I said, I'll stay in the office. And it was right down on Campus Drive by the airport. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting there at lunch eating out of a paper sack, which I had brought to work that day. And I see this long green Cadillac pull up in front of the office. And that got my attention. And this guy jumps out and he's got a beautiful suit and tie on, and he's got a briefcase, and he marches up to the front door of the office. And I go up to greet him and he said, "You must be the person in charge." I said, "Well, pretty far from it. Can I help you?" He said, "Well, do you have 5 minutes?" I said, "Well, for what?" And he opened his briefcase, Neil, and took out an old-fashioned cassette player. And he said, "Just listen for 2 minutes." And he pressed a button, and it was Earl Nightingale talking about the magic word, which is attitude. And he turned it off after 2 minutes and said, "What do you think?" I said, "What does it cost?" He said, "It's $150. I said, "I'll be right back." I went around the corner and called my wife at the time and said, "Do we have $150? She goes, "Yes." I said, "I'm writing a check." So I wrote him a check and I bought the original Lead the Field. And it was, of course, all Earl Nightingale's recordings. And I was still very, very young. And I wore them out listening to them. In fact, the fellow Giles Kavanaugh was the sales guy for Earl Nightingale. And he said, "Nobody's ever worn out a cassette tape." I said, "Well, meet Mike Ferry." So that's how it started. And then, of course, I was lucky to evolve from there in terms of who I met and strengthening those the same types of beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. But guess what what I'd like to know, if you know, and share with us here, is we all hear stuff, and some hear it and believe it, and some don't. You fortunately heard it and believed it and jumped on it. But how do we help people move to the belief faster? And I think the answer, what I think I'm hearing, is that everyone you talk to except Kavanaugh, you got a referral from. In other words, Vance told you about this guy. Earl Nightingale told you about that guy. That kind of stuff. When I met you, I just bought you hook, line, and sinker. And I've been hanging around for 45, 50 years right now, trying to get it right. But I got it. That's, if we could somehow maybe look inside. I mean, was there something that makes Mike more Mike than makes anybody else them to get you where you are? Because you're just stronger than 9-day-old garlic.
Well, I have this, I don't know if it's unique ability to be very susceptible to good, positive thoughts. And, there's a lot of great books like The Magic of Believing. There's so many books like that I've read. I've probably read 7,000 or 8,000 books in my life, because Earl Nightingale, Mike Vance, and Gunther Claus said, if you're going to succeed in life and business and you don't have an education, you have to get one. And I said, well, I can't afford to go to UCLA or USC. I can't afford to take off and go to junior college. And they said, can you read? And I said, yes. So they started me on a reading program. And, I've got this little computer sitting on a couple books. One is called Perfect Health by Deepak Chopra. I read that about 25 years ago. And I still think it's one of the best books on living a healthy life I've ever read. There's a great book called The Road Less Stupid. And of course, we've all heard of the book, The Road Less Traveled. But The Road Less Stupid is a fabulous book. But there's so many of these kind of things. And what you and I discovered we had in common was that there was a hole that need to be filled. And that knowledge we put in that hole is what made us where we are today. And I think the difference between you and I, Neil, and most people, if somebody tells me something that is valid, and the screen just went dark, I hope you can still hear. If somebody tells me something that is valid, I believe it, okay? And then I work hard to use it and implement it in my life. So, and welcome back. I think the screen just reappeared. So if we could just get people to start accepting the fact that they are a lot better than they think they are, that they can do a lot more good for themselves, their family, and people than they believe they can, it makes their little world a better world, and they make them more successful in the real estate business.
Great words. Thank you. So the question I wanted to ask you is, when we get together as a group or individuals, the conversation is always, let's not be afraid of a down market, okay?
Yes.
I've been hearing that from you for 45, 50 years now. And I just, like right now, the market's turned down. Things are down, all right? And I couldn't be more excited and happier. But why? Why is it that we should be that way, in your opinion?
My phone just rang, so I got distracted. So repeat the second half.
So the question is, why do you say Mike Ferry agents should embrace and look forward to a down market as opposed to that, rock and roll market we just came out of?
Well, if you take a look at the projections back in January of this year, and these projections were coming out that this would be a record-setting year for a number of real estate transactions, because there was no indication in December of last year, January, February of this year, that the market was going to change. There was no indications, or at least nothing that you and I saw. So I say to myself, okay, the number of agents went from about 1.2 million to 1.7, 1.8 million. And they were projecting about 6.4, 6.5 million real estate transactions in January, February. And 2 weeks ago, Neil, I saw a report and said, new projection, 5.3 million. And I went, yeah, that's really good. And some of my friends like yourself said, why is that good? I said, well, 5.3 is 10.6 million sides per commission checks. How many would you like to have for yourself? And they go, well, the market's down. I said, no. The market's not down. You're just not understanding what's going on in the market. So if you understand that there's 10.6 million commission checks available, and your goal is to get 45 or 50, you only need to get 0.0000001% of the market, and you're a success. So at the same time, if there's 1.8 million agents, we know that 60, 70% are going to do 0 transactions this year. So now my chances of succeeding in a bad market are even better. So I always think that the worse the market, the better chance that you and I and all of these great agents in your company and that are watching today, they have a much better chance if they understand that it's all a skill-based business, because that's really what we have to really understand today.
So you talk more about that, Mike.
Well, skills give us the confidence to do the job. How many times have you heard me say over the years, who's ever driven by a for sale owner and not stopped? And every hand in the audience goes up. And then I always smile and say, well, why did you not stop? I'm too busy. I had an appointment. I wrote their number down. I'm going to call them later. And that's called line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, line number 4. We don't stop because we don't know what to say when we get to the front door. And then if we do go to the front door, we walk up saying, I hope they're not home, hope they're not home, hope they're not home. So you're defeating yourself before you start. Well, the skill of knowing what to say and what to do, just like we're doing here today, Neil, gives us the confidence to talk to each other with this type of a tone and this type of a belief. So, I always use this example. Would you like an unskilled pilot flying your plane? Would you like an unskilled surgeon doing surgery? Would you like an unskilled attorney representing you in court? Do you want an unskilled accountant doing your tax records? And they all say, no, 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 no. Well, the public doesn't want a unskilled professional realtor trying to handle their transaction. It's so simple that it's complex, or it's so simple that it's hard to understand. And once they understand it, sky's the limit for everybody.
That's great. Fantastic. So we've got to work on our skills constantly.
It's well, think about this. Pro football teams, baseball, basketball, golf, tennis, anybody that's involved in athletics, they spend every day of their entire perfecting their skills.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Rams won the world championship. And of course, guess what they do after they win the Super Bowl? Practice basic fundamental skills every day. I mean, that's what professionals do. And I can't remember which one of the pro golfers said to me one time in a tournament, you have to understand, like, professionals practice, amateurs don't, and that's why they're amateurs.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So what are some of the things that you're going to talk about at the Superstar Retreat coming up?
Oh, it's really complicated. I've listed 23 different sales skills that I believe an agent has to master over the course of their career, not in 4 days. And then what I've done, Neil, is I've written 5 support points for each of those 23 skills. So I'm going to give the audience the skill. I'm going to give them the 5 support points. Then I'm going to invite onto the stage, and I've picked 23 agents that specialize in that skill at a high level. And I'll interview those agents for 20 minutes. So now the agent gets to hear the skill, hear the support points, and then watch a real live person that uses that skill to develop their business. I have to tell you, I generally do not get excited about any of our big superstar retreats because I've been doing them since 1985. But Sabrina said to me this morning, something's different. I said, what? She goes, you're excited. I said, I can't wait. I wish the retreat started tomorrow. I really do, because I really think that the people that will be there are going to walk away and say, this is what is missing from building my career to the next level, including your best agents who are highly productive.
So are there still tickets to the retreat?
Well, there's probably only about 1,000 left. And if somebody wants a ticket, just go to MikeFerry.com. And by the way, Neil, because, and I think everybody needs to hear this, because of Neil Schwartz and our relationship, he is what we categorize as an elite customer, an elite broker. So as you know, your agents get everything at 50% discount. I'm assuming there's some people that do not work for Century 21 Masters watching today. So if you either call Neil's office to get the discount on the ticket, or you go to MikeFerry.com and press the button for Elite Broker, instead of paying $450, they pay $225. And
okay, great.
So
I had Alma that has the Mastermind on it. She has a QR code on her screen. So if they want to just click on the QR code, they can do that, or we put the link in the chat box for anybody that wants to sign up. So we can do that. So Mike, let's talk. Go ahead, sorry.
I need to ask you one question. We have, for years now, usually on Sunday night before the retreat starts, we have dinner. We've done that for probably 30 years.
Correct.
So just re-extending after our COVID layoff, that invitation for Sunday night for dinner.
I'll be there. Thanks.
Good.
All right. Appreciate that. Okay. So let's talk for a couple of minutes about maybe some things that you would recommend. We've got, I don't know, a week and a half before the retreat, and the agents need a listing and they need a sale. Give me 2 or 3 things that you would put them into action with today for superstar agents, for brand new agents. What would you recommend?
Well, first of all, as you know, there's been, I think, 5 or 6 people over the last 4 or 5 years that unsolicited came up and said, if I give you a big check, would you talk to me every day, 5 days a week for 6 months? And I've done that now 6 times, and it's been a real treat. So this morning, I've been doing it now for 5 months with John Sullivan, who many of these people recognize, the big, tall, strong ex-soccer player out of London, England. So on my today call with John, I said, John, okay, it's Thursday morning. We have Thursday, Friday, probably Saturday. Then we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we have 9 to 10 days. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to every day work on how many valid leads you can create, either to use before the retreat or after. Either one is okay. And number 2, how many appointments for either a buyer or a seller presentation can you set up between now and the Sunday before the retreat? And I said, I want you to tell me every day how many leads you've generated and how many appointments you went on. And it was kind of fun because John said, what about how many listings I take? If you get enough leads and you go on enough appointments, you're going to take listings. So I'm just suggesting to all of your great agents at C21 Masters, let's work on leads and appointments, because if we get those two, everything else falls into place.
You know, it's really interesting you share that. I was talking to the group before you came on, and I was sharing that for the last couple of weeks, our number of pendings and our number of listings has risen dramatically, really, compared to what we hear is going on in the marketplace. And I think it's just that was the question, you know, what's going on in our world? And in our world, we're just being really, really, really consistent with the work we do, with our role plays on a daily basis, et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically using the basics of your system and doing our job. So let me ask you, the advice you just gave cost John Sullivan how much for 6 months?
Yeah. What did he pay for that?
What did he pay for that advice?
Well, he gave me a check for $50,000 for talking to him Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 6 months. I've done it 5 or 6 times. It was, I think, as you know, it happened by mistake with that young Lisa Ray out of Boulder, Colorado, who now lives down in Georgia with her husband. But I think in every one of the 6 or 7 times I've done it, because of the intensity and attitude of the agent and the intensity and attitude of the guy doing it, it's been a big success. And I do not recommend it to anybody that's listening on this call. If somebody says, maybe I should do it. And I said, no, don't do it. Don't do it. It's a lot of work for you and I. But as John has discovered, you know, we did a challenge. He went to London, England to see his family for the first time in a couple of years, because he has not had a chance to fly back and forth. So we challenged him, I think it was about June 20th. Oh, I don't know, someplace wrong. I can't remember what the date was, but he had 17 days before he left on his trip. So we challenged him to take 17 listings before he left. And he took 17 listings before he left, which made his week in London a much better week.
Yeah, I'll bet. So what I'm hearing in the essence of you is it's the attitude and the reaction to the problem that really pushes you forward. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think it's attitude. I generally do not react to problems because problems are part of life. So I look at them as an opportunity, which I always have. But I will say one thing which you and I understand, and I don't know many times if our people watching do. I work my butt off every day. And I generally put in 7, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And I'm commonly doing that 5.5, 6 days a week. So whatever life they think that I live, thank you for thinking it, but come and sit next to me and find out what work is. Because the truth is, with a good attitude and a strong belief and a good work ethic, you're going to win the game. This industry is not strong on the work ethic because they're independent contractors. Somebody said to me last week, I got in real estate for freedom. I said, freedom from what? Income? Because that's the first freedom you gain. But right. It's not the freedom you're looking for.
Absolutely. Mike, I've been working with the agents on what's their edge, because when they talk to a client, they've got to set themselves apart. All real estate agents have usually a big company that they work for, fairly big locally in their town. They all put a lockbox on a piece of property. They put a sign on a piece of property. What makes them different? So let me ask you, back in the beginning, before Mike Ferry was really the Mike Ferry organization, what was your edge? What gave you the you that has transformed this organization where it is today?
Well, in spite of how I am dressed without a tie on, sitting here talking to you today, which is pretty unusual, I always felt that if you have a professional image, which our industry is not known for that, and there was 4 or 5 people I worked with when I started in real estate, and I looked at them and said, these people are professionals. So I tried to, like you always do, be the most professional looking person. I then worked on the strength of what I said. And it wasn't just the words I used, but the sound of your voice and the belief in your voice. You know, it goes back to this one. How are you? Or how are you? And the response is going to be totally different to those 2 exact set of words. So I've always said it's the personal strength of your voice, the strength of the words you use, the strength of how you feel about yourself. And then the last thing is, do you really believe you're the right person for this person that you're working with? And I have always said, when you believe that you're the right person for the seller, that is conveyed to the seller every single time. And I would say to you, Neil, because we've been together for 47 years, I don't think there's anybody better for your agents than Neil Schwartz and Mike Ferry. We just have to get them to believe that. And the stronger we are in our belief, the stronger they become because of our belief.
Well, thank you, Mike. That was very well said. And that is the truth. In so many cases, we believe in them way more than they believe in themselves.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the success, the agents being in the Mike Ferry organization and part of Masters. So is there anything that you haven't said that you want to say right now to make sure that you've conveyed your point on helping agents move the needle as we focus on what needs to get done here in the last few days before the retreat?
Well, I would say, number one, if they would just get rid of that independent contractor thinking, if they rip that label off their head and throw it in the trash can, they're going to be way ahead of the game. Okay. I think number two, if they accept the fact that learning how to sell is a nonstop, never-ending process. We don't go to anything and learn how to sell. We spend the rest of our life learning our profession. Your doctor, my doctor, they never stop learning how to do their job better. So I think if you take the independent contractor attitude, throw it in the trash, which I wish people would do. And even though I know there's laws about what you and I can say and what we can't say because we're independent contractors, if they get rid of the attitude, they're ahead of the game. And then, of course, number two, if they start to slowly accept the fact that this is a lifelong process. I'm 77. I started this at age 18. I don't know how many years that is, but it's a long time. And I am far from the end of the line in terms of what I have to learn to do my job better. And one of the reasons, folks, Neil and I have been friends for 47 years is we both have that same attitude and belief. So I'm lucky to have Neil as a friend, as a customer, and hopefully your agents feel the same way about you, and they feel that way, hopefully more about myself after today.
Well, I'm the lucky one here. You know, I met you very early on in my career, and it's made a giant difference.
Somebody put in the chat box, how many times have I retired? I retired twice. I retired once at about age 50. It lasted about an hour. And then I did it again. I think it was 57 or 58. I threw my hands up in the air and said, I'm going to go to Maui for 6 months. And I did. I just went to Maui for 6 months, played golf. And then I was so bored to tears, I couldn't think of. So I've retired twice. And my next retirement will be in a casket. So, and I'm not planning that.
Nothing,
So,
not anytime soon.
no, that's for
Uh,
sure.
That is for sure. Fantastic. Very cool. Very, very cool. Mike, I really appreciate it. Everyone, let's unmute yourselves, please. Unmute yourselves. Let's give them a big hand. Woo! All right.
Mikey.
There's-
Thank you, Mike and Neil.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank
Mike,
you.
this has
Mike
been-
Thank you.
Mike, you're looking
Good
great.
job,
Thank you,
good job.
Mike.
Okay,
Hope to see you again
Thank you.
soon.
Thank you, Mike.
Robert, mute everybody, please.
Okay.
Thank
Nailed
you. All right, so 2 shameless plugs. Number 1, if you don't have a ticket to the Mike Ferry event, sign up. We in the chat box, there's you can go to his landing page and sign up there. And even if you don't work for Century 21 Masters, you'll get the 50% off price, number 1. Number 2, our shameless plug is, look, we have a role play that we do every day, Monday through Friday. I'm going to be there. Robert's there. Our management team shows up. It's 1 hour. If you've got to start working on the scripts and dialogues, start there. Come on by, see what's going on, and we'll work from there. If you're not in an environment where you're getting support and help from your brokers, if you find that your broker isn't up at 8 o'clock in the morning role playing with you, then give us a call and give us a consideration. Mike, I don't see you on the screen. Are you still there?
I'm still here, of course.
Okay, so again, I want to thank you very, very much for taking this time with us. Number 1. Number 2, what we're going to do is at the end of all of these, we go around the room, so to speak, and we get into a huddle and ask the agents what they learned. We're going to do that right now. You're welcome to hang if you want, or if you have a hard stop, I understand. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will be there Sunday night for dinner. What's
Good.
Sabrina cooking?
It's going to be the Wynn Hotel restaurant.
Okay, got
Okay.
it.
I'm
All
going
right.
to sign off. I'll see everybody in a couple of weeks.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, great words, great suggestions, a little bit of insight into the man himself. I do believe it is attitude. It is attitude, not aptitude, that helps you get to your next level. If you have attitude and aptitude, wow, what a combination. Okay. Who wants to share what they learned? Who wants to go first? Raise your hand or just start talking.
I'll go, I guess. Neil, and thanks again for setting that up. I got to tell you, a plug for yourself. Your connection with him has made such a large impact on me, because you were talking about mentors and things like that. And obviously, you're at the top of my list in terms of mentors and me learning from you, but then you gave me the exposure to him. And it's like, it's the way my mind works is that when you're exposed to Neil and Mike and have that personal relationship that I do, if I fail, that's really on me. Like, that's the way I look at like being around certain people like yourself and Mike, like because you were talking about with him, he was around Mike Vance and Earl Nightingale, and his mindset was like, if I screw this up, then that's his fault. Like, you can't be around Earl Nightingale and fail and be like, oh, well, Earl Nightingale is the one who didn't know what he's doing. And that's kind of my mentality. So I'm always so grateful to be able to pick up any of these little interviews that you and him or, anything like that. So I greatly appreciate that exposure that you always give me for that. And the second thing was, he said, good attitude, strong belief, and good work ethic, and you're going to win the game.
Yeah, very good.
It's just so simple.
Keep it
But
simple.
it's those 3 things. And so I saw a couple people put in the chat box, I appreciate your honesty on, I need to work on my work ethic. So the question is for everybody, which of those 3 things are you struggling with? Because you can't have 2 of the 3 and win. You got to have all 3.
It's great stuff, Robert. Thank you. And thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it very much. There's a little tear in my eye. Thank you.
Don't cry. Don't cry.
So
Good
you know,
job.
I'm gonna make some 4 points that really stood out for me. Because I think confidence can be lost, and it's okay. We're not all perfect every day, but we got to recognize that that is something that we can regain, right? By just shifting the way we think. And 4 points that he put out was strengthen the way you look, strengthen the way you look, strengthen your voice, strengthen the words you use, and strengthen how you feel about yourself. And I think all those, when you tie those together, I mean, you may not feel good, but if you look good, you can start, you know, what is it? Fake it till you make it. And then you start using the words. So I just thought that was really, really powerful. And then the last question is, do you believe you're the right person for the job of selling their home? And, you know, again, it all goes to your mindset and confidence. So I think those key points are crucial.
All right, very cool. Thank you. That was great, Miguel. Anyone else want to share what they got out of the last 45 minutes or so? Josie,
Neil?
go ahead, Josie, and then I'll.
Well, like he always says, and we keep hearing it over and over, it's a skill-based business. So we need to, you know, with your group, we're working on the skills at least for an hour a day. We have that opportunity and improve on that. So that was great, of course.
Great point.
Fantastic. Thanks, Josie. Lauren?
Hey, Neil, I just wanted to thank you. I've been kind of sporadically showing up, but kind of regularly now on the Mastermind, and I wasn't expecting Mike, but I've known him a long time, and it's always good to see him because, you know, I know I've known you and him for a long time from just going to the LA events, but it's fun to see him and just think about, you know, wherever you are, you can get better. You may not ever be perfect because God knows I'm not Forrest Gump. I just can't go out and do everything he says to do, but you always know what you should be doing, you know?
That's for sure.
And I really appreciate that about Mike and you.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, who else wants to share?
I'll share.
Go ahead. Who was that? Jack?
Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, just, you know, Mike's always make it simple. Just keep it simple. In the next 2 weeks, focus on the appointments, focus on the lead, and then everything will follow.
Yeah, great point.
You're a great example of that, Jack. Keep up the good work. Really, you're a great example of that. Good guy. Okay, what else? Who was it Denise?
I was next. Yes. So just piggyback on Jack, like he said, like there's tons of business out there, and all we get to do is be that 0.1, and we'll still be on top of what the other percentages.
Totally.
And on top of that, just you know, speaking with you, Neil, and Mike, the fact that where you guys both started, it just shows that it doesn't matter where you start, and within the matter with a couple of years, you can be in a whole different lifestyle. And I admired that. I admire your story, his story, and it's just the work ethic. As long as you have that work ethic and that commitment, you can accomplish it.
Absolutely. You know, we say all the time, you overestimate what you can do in 12 months and way, way underestimate what you can do in 5 years. And therein lies the problem, is when you get to the 1 year, you think you failed, but you have to add 3 or 4 more or 5 more years onto that. And I know Mike would say this about himself. I would say this about me, that in my wildest dreams, and I dreamed pretty big as a kid coming out of Pico Rivera, I never, ever dreamt the numbers that we've been able to hit as a family and as a business. So, I mean, it is awesomely possible. So you too can do it. And you just got to focus for 5 years, 6 years, and then just, if you do what others won't do for 5 years, you can have what others can't have for the rest of your life. What else? What else you want to share? Go ahead, Tess.
I think right now being that the market has changed, and we as an agent need to convey this to our client. We should be the calming person. We should be the person that we should convey and let the people know that's okay. It is real estate is how it is. It's cyclical. We should be the calming person. And as an agent, we need to educate ourselves. We need to be skill based, and we got to do, because people rely on us. What we say, we have to be careful, but in order for us to say it, we have to know and convey in a calming first, because uncertainty creates fear to our client. And we are at this stage. It is our job to give that right message.
Tess, that is so well said. And it reminds me of the very first item back on March 18th, 2020, when we were talking about what to do for our clients on a daily, weekly basis. And exactly the same thing. We said it then. We have to be the calming force. Very, very well said. Good job.
Can I add something?
Of course.
Piggyback on what Tess was saying, because I was, coming back from vacation. I was catching up, talking to all my PCs and sorry, is this ringing? Sorry. PCs and database with the 50 content challenge. And I found out, interest rate actually came down a little bit, but most people didn't know that. They're still thinking it's in the 6, but actually yesterday or this week, it's in the high 4, low 5s. And there's opportunity, and people were just scared. They just assumed that the interest rate is still super high. It's way more than what they can afford, and that's not the case. And then just today, I saw the article just saying that we just saw the biggest drop in interest rate like this week in a long time. So these are information that we need to share with the clients that they may not know.
No, and you know why you know that, Jack? Because you stay in touch with the market. You know the statistics. That's one of the statistics.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, the reason that your clients don't know, and I'm not saying this about you, Jack, the reason the general public doesn't know that is because other real estate agents are not telling them. And they're either not telling them, or real estate agents have no skills, so they keep going, it's a hot market. It's a great market. They're not giving them stats. This is why I've been saying for 2 or 3 months, I don't know if anyone's heard me say this, you should be greedy. Anyone heard me say be greedy over the last few months? There is a world of database out there to be taken, because all the agents that these people have are not calling them and telling them that interest rates are not in the 6s. They're not telling them what the prices are doing. They're not telling them if things have shifted or if things are going down. So you get to be the one to give that information and therefore steal their database. And that's huge. So that's a great point, Jack. Thank you.
Good job. Anyone else want to share what they learned? Noelle, you got your hand up, or you're pointing at somebody else?
I was pointing at Armin, who's next to me on my screen.
My coach had me do something similar to what Jack is talking about. He had me every morning type in interest rates and where they're headed in the next week, month, year. And I started doing that on a daily basis after that 1 week that Ira told me to do that. And I find and what Jack said, the interests have kind of eased their way back down. So a lot of people are still quoting close to 6, and it's a little bit under.
So to piggyback on this idea and what Robert said, and Jack and Armin, the point is, I would say there's probably, of the 90 people that are still on here, that 40 of them didn't know the interest rates went down as much as they went down. Number one. Number two, there's 40 or 50 that didn't tell their clients anyway, because they don't prospect. They don't tell the world what's happening. Okay? We are in the meet the people business. Let's meet them. Mike broke this down so simply. How many leads can you generate between now and the Superstar Retreat? And if you're not going to the Superstar Retreat, first of all, shame on you. It's not for me, not for Mike. You know, Mike doesn't need the $400. He's not going to let you in for free. But, you know, he's got this money back guarantee. You guys know what the money back guarantee is? When Mike gets your money, you'll never get it back.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. All right. Okay. Who else has? Go ahead.
Just a quick point too, as well. And, you know, one of the benefits in prospecting inside the Zoom is you really pick up on, and this is your hot mic Zoom thing that you're prospecting all day. For me, I hear things that that other agents say that I pick up on, and I hear things that agents say that I know that I've said in the past and I shouldn't say. And so it's been a powerful, gosh, a year and a half that I've been with you guys. So, but here's my point. We have to be careful on how we deliver the information, because if we're telling people, you know, gosh, the market's changing, the rates are such, and then all of a sudden we're having this narrative, and then all of a sudden, but it's a great time to sell. I'm confused as a real estate agent when I hear that. And so rather, we got to be careful how we present it. It's like, hey, we're at the top of the market. We are at the top of the market and just maybe slightly on the other side of that peak. But what an incredible time to sell. And so how we deliver the information, we got to be careful it's got to be a positive thing, because I still think it's an incredible time to sell, right? We're at the peak or just on the other side of it. My thought.
No, thanks. Appreciate it. Very good. Okay. Anyone else want to share what they learned today?
Hey, Neil.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, what I'm just saying about what Miguel just said, it is true, because we can always tell the people, oh, the rates are going up, and oh, by the way, this week they're going down. They're talking to a lot of friends, people also, they're giving the wrong information, and depending what they trust. An important thing for us in sales is the client has to trust us, because if we tell them this is this way, they might not trust us, that they don't believe us. So when we learn the personality styles and all that, how to connect to people, it is important the way that we gain their trust. Otherwise, they're gonna not believe what we said.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. Okay.
Neil, last thing that I had here, and this point might not be relevant for all the people on this particular thing, but maybe it is. Miguel mentioned the point earlier about Mike said, you know, be well dressed, all these other different things. And he was talking about, you don't want an unskilled pilot, you don't want an unskilled accountant. And this is something I never got with the real estate agents that don't think this way as a mindset, is we don't value our profession high enough. So what I mean is we value doctors really, really high. Okay, general public values doctors really, really high. They take care of our health. We value attorneys really, really high. They handle our legal stuff. We value financial accountants really, really high. They handle our money. But why don't we put ourselves in that category? Because we're handling their largest asset. Shouldn't we value ourselves the same way we value doctors, attorneys, financial planners, things like that? Really, we don't put ourselves in that category. We put ourselves like in the bottom category, which makes no sense when you're handling their largest financial asset, pretty much all their money, because most people don't have $500,000 of equity and $500,000 in the bank. They have $500,000 in equity and $5,000 in the bank. But we don't value that. And I think because of that, it's like we should have the same skill level, the same professional level as a doctor, as an accountant, as an attorney, because we really should look at ourselves as that category of value to the general public. And so for the agents that don't do that, that's one, I hope that your license gets taken away because you make the rest of us look bad. Okay. But two, the rest of you, you should put that in your mind that I'm just as important as your doctor. I'm just as important as your attorney. I'm just as important as your accountant, because I'm handling your biggest asset, but I'm going to dress the part and I'm going to have the skills to show that and all those other different things. It's just a different mentality that some real estate agents don't look at their job that way.
Can everybody unmute real quick and give Robert a hand on that, please?
Woo! That was
legit, buddy.
fantastic,
Good
Robert.
job, Robert.
All right, that's it for me.
Robert.
That's it for me. Everybody have a good day.
That was good stuff, man.
Well
Guys.
said.
Don't do that. He's gonna leave.
Well said, Grasshopper.
He's
I don't
gonna
know
go
if
play
my
with
door,
his.
I don't know if the door is wide enough for my head to get out of it now.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're good, man.
Here comes the guillotine.
I need to
Good
clean up.
point.
the-
Good
wipe
point.
these tears, man. That was good.
Okay, what else did we learn? Thank you, Robert. Excellent. What else did we learn today?
Real quick, I just want to share that something that I pick up on Mike. He always talks about positive thinking, but that's actually, I've noticed that that's something that he works towards. Like, it's a very intentional process for him, and other people that we've done mastermind sessions with have talked about this, but it's very intentional. So he guards his thoughts very well, with only, not talking about or not listening to the news or any of that stuff. He's very protective of his mind space, and I really appreciate that. It reminds me too that, grateful people are happy people, and those that aren't. And that always, rings true, and he's a good testimony of that. So
That's good stuff. Do you ever, those of you that know Mike or been around him, he has this thing, if he doesn't want to hear or he doesn't buy what you're selling, stop. Okay, stop. I can't tell you how many times he does that. Doesn't want to hear it. So good stuff. Thank you. All right, what else we got? By the way, Robert, did you stop the recording? I didn't either, but I don't see it recording. Okay.
It's just still live streaming on Facebook, so if
So it's
anything,
recording
we
that
can get
way?
it from there.
Okay.
Yes, it'll save on Facebook.
All right. But I've never
Neil.
seen it turn off. Yeah, go ahead.
Neil, one thing that I always notice for you and Mike through the years, like you said, you know him for 45 years, and you've been through so many markets. Like, when I'm I'm very amazed. We went through so many markets, and you guys make all the money in the world, you and Mike, and you couldn't quit already and say, I'm going to do something else after the pandemic or after 2008. Neither Mike or you have to continue working, because he said, why do we need to deal with it? But the faith that you have in this business, other people say, I'm going to do just short sales for a little bit and then I'm going to retire. Or I'm going to do a little refis and I'm going to retire. You guys are taking real estate forever. Even I would see Mike 90 years old is still doing it because he got faith in the business. Doesn't matter what the market goes and change. The same thing for you. You like the business and it doesn't matter what happened. We're always going to make money. So that's why I'm noticing that if you have faith, we have to have faith.
No, that's a really good point. But I'd like, for me, I can't give you this for Mike. I think this is true for him. I really like helping people. Sounds corny, but I really like helping people. And for instance, on 4th of July, I had told everybody that I was going to be there for the role play at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I mentioned it to my wife the night before. And she says, what are you doing? You don't have to go to work tomorrow. And I said, and I looked at her for a moment, I paused, and I says, but I like it. And it doesn't get in the way of anything if I'm there for an hour from 8 to 9. And I enjoy doing the role play and I enjoy helping people. So it worked out fine. At 9 o'clock, I was off and did something else. But the 8 or 9 people that were there, I think I helped. And I like that. So anyway.
You did, Neil.
Sorry?
I was there and it was helpful.
Thank you.
It was great.
And you know what, Neil? We'll look for it. It's like if we don't have it in the morning, it's like something's missing. My day's not starting.
Right. No, I get it. I think Mike is that way at some level also. So anyway, all right. Anyone else want to share anything? Because we should move on. Don't we have somebody working on prospecting today?
Let's go get it.
Overrated.
Neil.
I think I had 1 o'clock, no?
You always take 1 o'clock. Good job, Armin.
Hey, Neil, real quick, you're very generous of you to offer the registration form. Is that correct? It's $225. Is that the price?
Yes.
Right, that's the price.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, yeah. So Alma did a job putting a QR thing up. That's what it's known as, the QR thing.
She's so smart.
So we appreciate that, and you know, they're dragging me into the 2022 kicking and screaming, but here we go.
We have an important part out, Neil, that I don't think anybody's mentioned is the support that we've been given. Most of your staff are really awesome. The rest are okay, but most of them are really awesome. Alma's really awesome. Robert's awesome. A lot of the staff members that you have are really, really supportive. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand what they're missing about coming here. They all think about, oh, Century 21, the fees. But if you ever come and look at what we got out of, you know, beyond that, I think that you provided very much. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for that other shameless plug. You can go on another 40 minutes. I have plenty of time. All right, good stuff. Our